good to be back with you once again right here on the India Development Debate. And I'm Supriya. Shrinate. With me is my co-anchor Sandeep Gurumurthi, and we will be putting the spotlight on news that we've been all baffling with. And that's privacy concerns that have once again over Aadhaar getting worse each passing day. The Modi government found itself in a bit of a dock today after mobile phone users found that their phones have been suddenly loaded with UIDAI's helpline number 18300301947 without their knowledge or their consent. UIDAI says it never asked any mobile service provider or handset maker to load its helpline number. Mobile service providers like Vodafone and Airtel have also clarified emphatically that they have not included the UIDAI helpline number in their preloaded phone books. The question then is, who has?
The new revelation may have further weakened the government's plan to make Aadhaar mandatory for every citizen of the country. Also, the charge against Aadhaar comes within days after the Justice Srikrishna Commission raised questions over UIDAI's ability to prevent data breaches. Just to remind you, the Supreme Court is expected to pronounce its verdict in the Aadhaar versus privacy matter anytime soon. The fresh privacy concerns over Aadhaar, that's the topic of discussion tonight on the India Development Debate. Joining us in this leg of the debate, Sanjay Jain, former Chief Product Manager at UIDAI and volunteer at iSpirit, Pankaj Mahindru, National President of the Indian Cellular Association, Pawan Dugal, President cyberlaws.net and advocate of Supreme Court, and Nikhil Pava, founder, editor and publisher of Medianama.com. Sanjay, let me start with you because this is a story that's sort of taken everyone by surprise. You know, the UIDAI number appears across service providers, across phone brands, both Android and iOS. It appeared as if it was only an Android issue, but it now appears across phone brands as well, but not for all subscribers of the handset or brand. So it's really difficult to identify a pattern, and something just doesn't seem to be adding up. What do you make of it?
So when we saw this earlier today, somebody tweeted and copied me on the tweet. I went in and looked. I have 3 phones at home. On 2 of them, this number doesn't show up. On one of them, it shows up as having been imported in 2015. And so I'm guessing that it was in some of the SIMs at that time, and then it was imported when I imported all the SIM numbers while switching phones into the new phone and into Google Contacts. And as a result, it shows up on one of the phones at home. Now, the thing to remember is that this is an old number. The UIDAI discontinued this number a while back. So there's no reason for them to be pushing this number into people's phones, even if they could. So the first point is, I don't believe they can. Second, I don't think they did. And that this, whatever it is, it showed up in my daughter's phone as of 2015. So this is not clearly recent. Now, I don't see really a privacy concern. My guess, and this is only a guess, is that one of the telecom providers put it out on their SIM in some batch, and not just one, maybe multiple of them did, and they then got into multiple people's phone books, and then they have stayed there. And today, for whatever reason, people found it convenient to point out and make an issue of it. And it's sort of gone over Twitter all day today and some of the day yesterday. So I clearly there's no way we can go back and figure out what happened until one of the people who put their SIMs comes up and says that that's what they did.
Right. Sanjay, while, you're right in saying that they couldn't have put in all of that, but it has left a lot of people worried. There is no denying that, because, here you see an import and not everybody is as perhaps well informed as you. And so I think the logical question to ask is, Nikhil Pava, I'll come to you. Is this a case really of incompetence? Is this a case of apathy, or is just pure misinformation? Because whatever it is, this needs to be resolved by providing concrete answers, because it is creating panic. People are wondering, are they being snooped upon? Is there surveillance? My simple question is it apathy, is it incompetence, or is it purely misinformation? Nikhil Pava.
So the way I would look at it is that, this is an indication that people are really worried about the Aadhaar situation. And therefore, the fact that it's on everyone's handset, no one understands why it's there. How did it get there? The UIDAI says that they don't know how they get it, that they didn't order it. Who ordered it to be put on everyone's handset? And while I don't think there's much of an issue regarding the number itself being added to someone's contact, the question is what else can be added without people's permission or without people's knowledge. It also indicates that people are really worried about what is happening with Aadhaar and how it's being forced on people and how it's being linked to everything. It's an indication because this is not a situation which should have otherwise gotten out of hand or sort of blown up this big. We need answers because at this point in time, we don't know who's done this. And no one seems to claim responsibility for it.
We don't know who's done it. No one's claiming responsibility. Pankaj Mandru represents the Cellular, Association of India. Pankaj Mandru, what's your own sense? How could this have happened? I mean, okay, we'll be joined by Pankaj Mandru in just a bit. But Pawan Dugal, let me take it to you then. Both the UIDAI and telecom operators have washed their hands off, saying they had nothing to do with it. So the simple question is, who could have added it? Because either the operators have added it, or the UIDAI has added it, or a platform like Google has added it, or it may have come with a bunch of people who've downloaded a certain app. I mean, there's got to be some way by which it got added into people's mobile phones.
Clearly, whosoever has added it clearly knows how to breach the cyber security of phones. It's not a phone of a single individual, not a group of individuals, not an association of people. It spans across the country. And I see it primarily in two perspectives. Number one, it's a cybersecurity breach of individual people's mobiles and their resident data privacy and personal privacy. More significantly, I see it a national issue. I see it a massive potential threat to Indian sovereignty, security and integrity in the coming times. Why? Because if this can be done by someone, I'm sure the day is not far off when this and much more serious work can be done targeting at governmental systems and networks. Seen from a third perspective, this entire episode does not really come in as something surprising. Why? Because when I looked at the entire sequence of events in the last 8 days, it's very quickly clear that once you actually put out a daring kind of a challenge on the cyberspace ecosystem, saying absolutely I'm 100% secure, do whatever harm that you can do to me. And then the entire global community of hackers sit up, watch, take action and say, okay, let's accept the challenge. So right from the individual's personal email IDs and personal details to his daughter being threatened to now this happening, I see that as a part of a sequence. This is only to demonstrate that India as a nation is only providing lip service to cybersecurity. The kind of significance that as a nation we need to be adopting to this is clearly missing. We don't have a law on cybersecurity. We don't have any effective legal remedies. Today this has come into my system without my permission. Technically speaking, it's hacking. Under Section 66 and 43I of the Information Technology Act.
Yes.
How many people would go ahead and register it? And the biggest question, UIDAI has still till today evening not registered an FIR against this people would even massive kind of incident.
Okay, right.
Ask Pawan, what is the
Pawan Dugal, I think the larger point also is how many people will know there's a section. Sanjay, I have a direct question for you. So you can respond to the point that Pawan Dugal is making, which is really borders the theory of, is this a cyber security breach of sorts? So answer that question. But I also have a question of my own, Sanjay. I understand and I don't buy the number invalid argument, because 1800300197 was indeed a valid number and was printed on Aadhaar letters. That number is no longer valid and replaced by 1947 by an official order, which also came from PIB, which names UIDAI. This debate certainly can't be lost between valid and invalid numbers in that case, can it? Sanjay.
It's an old and new number. It's not I don't want to say invalid or valid. It's an old number. The number was a correct number to reach out to UIDAI from 2010 till some time back. I don't know when it got changed, but certainly in 2010, this is the number, and it got printed on all Aadhaar cards. And at some point later, it got changed to just 1947. Now, so it's clearly an outdated number, and today it's invalid. But the question comes down to that, when I did my investigation, I found that it entered the phone book back in 2015. So it's not as though it came in today. The reason it's come out in public today is because of the furor caused by the issue of RS Sharma and so on, and hackers taking notice, etc. So it's not as though something happened in the last week and suddenly everybody's, or at least a lot of people's mobile phones have this number in it.
I take that point. This is not an event that has happened now. I take that point, Sanjay. But Nikhil, I want you to comment on that. Hope we'll be joined by Pankaj Mahendra in moments from now. Nikhil, Sanjay said that, it could well be that telecom operators at, in a certain batch of SIMs added this number one. Clearly, it's not one, but multiple operators, though they are now denying that they ever did it. Could the instruction have come from the UIDAI and did telcos follow it? I mean, I find it hard to believe why would any telecom operator on his own, add this particular number to particular SIM. So, or was this done by telecom companies to facilitate linkages with Aadhaar? If so, why are they denying it now? Would they all be lying?
So look, we don't know who's done it, but I think this is where Ravi Shankar Prasad needs to come in, because any such order would have either gone from the UIDAI or the Ministry of Information Technology, and therefore they need to come clean. Why wasn't people's consent taken for adding this number? It's not, adding this number is not a dangerous thing, but what it shows to people is that things can be added to their phones without their consent. So who knows, the government might install some spyware on the phone or force handset manufacturers to install it to surveil everyone. This is just a small indication of a larger problem, that consent is not taken before doing such things. People are not shown the fact, they're not informed of the fact that this is being done. This is just mistrust of everything that the UIDAI does. Frankly, I don't know if I should believe the UIDAI or not, because they've been contradicting themselves. They've been trying to, every time an issue is there, they say, oh, we didn't do anything. Every time there's a leakage of data, they say, oh, it's not UIDAI data which is leaked, but it's Aadhaar numbers which have been published by someone. They'll keep denying responsibility. The question is, who is responsible here? And is there anyone who is responsible? Are we saying that the UIDAI is irresponsible, or the Ministry of Information Technology is irresponsible, that they can't even communicate to people that something is being done here?
Yeah. Okay. Nikhil, just hold that thought there. I want to take this across to Pawan Duggal. And gentlemen, I've got very little time on the show, so we'll just request each one of you to keep your answers brief. There are very important issues that we need to touch upon. Mr. Duggal, there are some unconfirmed reports that suggest that the number has been added by Google, given it's the mail server and the phone. I mean, how does one ascertain that particular thing, that Google has done it? And shouldn't Google proactively clarify if that's indeed the case, or even if it's not the case? Because what explains the number appearing on iPhones if that is really the case?
Well, I think we'll have to wait for investigations to give us more clarity as to what exactly was the role. In case if these rumors are there, first and foremost, there's no basis. But if there's a basis, the service provider can definitely be asked. But more significantly, it's a bigger question on the government. Well, whether it was added in 2015 or it gets added in 2018, the fact remains is something gets inserted into a communication device without the permission, knowledge or consent of the concerned owner. That is a more worrying exercise. Who knows, maybe this is a spyware, this may be a malware, maybe this may be a computer contaminant. Hard to even predict right now. So all I can say is that at this time when so much panic is going across, the government ought to have come out with crystal clarity to say this is what you should be doing. The UIDAI should have registered an FIR against unknown people. They go and register FIRs against journalists. But here, when this is happening at almost kind of a calamity level, you are just being saying, look, this is not my number. That does not absolve you of the responsibility as an intermediary of UIDAI under the Information Technology Act 2000, which is in any case expected and mandated to exercise all due diligence while it discharges its obligations under the law. So we'll have to wait what the final investigations results achieve.
Sure. Okay, fair point. Sanjay, Times Network spoke to the IT and Law Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad, and he was categorical in saying that, data of users is safe. And, I don't think the idea is here to sort of, scaremonger. But the fact is that for a large majority of people, they feel like this is a breach of privacy, because if a number could potentially be added without a user's knowledge in his or her phone, how can one be rest assured that their information on phone is not being, accessed in any form by any agency?
So I did a simple experiment. I went to my phone contact book and I said, filter all phone contact numbers that are sitting on my SIM card. I found 23 such contact entries. 4 of them are emergency contacts, ambulance, railways, and so on, police, things like that. But then there are about another 10 entries which is advertising, right? There is a chat line. A friend of mine found a pizza delivery order, and so on. So it does look like telecom companies are putting things onto SIMs as per their own desires. These are not necessarily public service numbers. And so if some of them decided to put a UIDAI helpline number as a public service number a few years ago, I don't see it as such a big deal as it's being made out. It's not as though somebody converted it into a live phone. It was on a SIM that was purchased and plugged into the phone. It was already there. So I really find this scaremongering to be really worrisome from people who should know better.
Okay. All right. I wouldn't want to take this to Nikhil because I know what Nikhil's reply on this will be. But Pawan Dugal, if I may ask you, and Nikhil, I'm coming to you right next. Is it breaches like these that weaken the case for Aadhaar? I mean, Aadhaar, for all practical purposes, can be a great tool to plug leakages. It can be a great tool for direct benefit transfers and all of that. But is it leakages? Is it issues and controversies like these that really mire Aadhaar in some sort of a surveillance debate?
Well, Aadhaar and its intrinsic value and utility can hardly be overemphasized. But the fact is, the way it's been gone about being implemented, in the absence of any cyber security being made an integral component of the Aadhaar architecture from the word go, it's been a worrisome phenomenon. Till such time Aadhaar was voluntary, life was fine, because everything was happening in the central identities data repository, which the government says, which everyone says is safe. Of course, there's no proof to that effect as well. But ever since government started making this mandatory, different service providers getting connected to the Aadhaar central identities data repository, an ecosystem developed around Aadhaar, this ecosystem is completely unsafe. There's no any semblance of any kind of compliance with cyber security per se. And that's the reason why UIDAI actually registered more than 50 plus FIRs last year because of breaches in the cyber security ecosystem. Now, obviously, this is a worrisome phenomenon. People say, well, we should not be doing scaremongering. Hold on. This is something that's scaring us right in front of our own eyes. And at any point of time, India needs to not adopt an ostrich approach of digging its head into the sand and saying, well, it's midnight when it's mid-noon. The fact of the matter remains, if this Aadhaar was so brilliant, so invincible, where was the necessity for the UIDAI to register FIRs? Where is the necessity for us to keep on getting bombarded with news of constant breaches of Aadhaar? And where is the necessity of even trying to identify the privacy related issues pertaining to Aadhaar? Obviously there's a problem, but we have as a nation a habit to put things below the carpet. So we want to keep on putting it below the carpet. It's now reached a scenario where this could potentially impact the sovereignty, security and integrity of India. And I think that's serious stuff. This requires national interest to be taken into consideration. Nobody's against Aadhaar. What I'm trying to say is, let's make Aadhaar more stronger, more robust, more resilient.
I take that point. Pawan, I take that point. I take that point, Pawan. I'm running out of time. I'm sure Sanjay will want to come in the end. Sanjay, I'll let you have the last word. And look, the idea of this debate is not to sort of, do any sort of scaremongering. But Nikhil, this is a theory that you float a lot. Every time any news flow comes in on Aadhaar ahead of the judgment, you always say, oh, it's being done by the, by the pro-Aadhaar lobby to sort of create some surround sound in favor of Aadhaar. So now the other side is saying that this is all being timed just ahead of the crucial Supreme Court judgment on Aadhaar. So your own logic is being thrown back at you, saying this is being done ahead of the crucial Supreme Court judgment on Aadhaar. So the larger question I'm asking really is, for a developing economy like India, how does one go about balancing social development goals, which frankly take precedence over everything else? How does one balance that with the need to protect privacy? Nikhil.
So I don't think it's an either-or situation, right? I think most healthy democracies have always had privacy along with social development. We cannot compromise privacy. We cannot compromise the rights of individuals for social development. What kind of social development, is our country going to have if it's going to be focused on compromising people? It's the same argument that applies to environmental issues. We will suffer in the long term if we keep compromising people's rights. At this point in time, Aadhaar has been leaking. The Aadhaar data has been leaking, even if it's not from the UIDAI itself, but from multiple stakeholders, including the government. People's futures are being compromised right now. R.S. Sharma demonstrated the fact that no harm can come to him, but that comes from his privilege. If he doesn't feel that his personal data leaking is harm to him, there are several others who feel that they would be harmed if their personal data leaks. There are women who would not feel comfortable with their addresses being made public like this. We need, as a country, to start protecting people's privacy. And it's not about scaremongering, or it's not about one lobby versus the other. The arguments are being put about what's best for our country in terms of protecting people. What are we willing to give up for this growth? Certainly not the rights of individuals. Our Constitution protects those rights.
Okay, just hold on to that thought, because I think at the end of this entire debate, we've got to think about viewers. We've got to think about people like you, people like me, who perhaps have woken up and have realized that there's this alien number on their phones. And Sanjay, just for those viewers here who found this number on their phones, what would your advice to them be? What should they be doing? I had a colleague in office who found that number. She was so scared that she was being snooped upon. She actually went and deleted it. So what should they be doing or not be doing at this point in time?
I would answer, just delete it, because it's an outdated old number. It's useless. It's occupying one spot on your contact book. Just go delete it. No harm will come to you from that. And that's it. For those who want to investigate further, should try and figure out if it is from their current SIM or how it got into their contact book. And I'm sure there are enough tech-savvy people who are trying to figure that out right now. And we should wait to see what comes out of that next couple of days, because I'm sure somebody will figure it out how it came there.
All right, completely timed out. We'll leave it at that. Sanjay Jain, Nikhil Pava, and Pavan Duggal, appreciate you joining us with your perspective on this leg of the India development debate. The thing with Aadhaar is it's an emotive issue. It gets people riled, but fundamentally, we need, as a country, we need to find a way of striking a balance between protecting privacy of individuals along with ensuring that our development goals are not compromised at any cost.
Indeed, and when issues and controversies like these do erupt, I think it's incumbent upon the government of the day, it's incumbent on the UIDAI chief to come out there and to assure people, assuage concerns. You know, just issuing a press release saying we didn't do it, the telecom operator saying we didn't do it either, it only fuels the controversy further. It's important for informed voices to come out there and clarify on this matter. We will be rest assured our data and our information is safe once we hear it from people who matter. Thanks very much for being with us on this edition of the India Development Debate. We take a quick breather, and up next is Top 10 at 10.